Hello and welcome to my series of conversations with Stalwarts of Music. Today's episode is being partnered by Perpetual Buzz Experiences. They're an artist representation company with three very basic but lofty goals. They're the launchpad for indie musicians, helping them leverage their success to produce memorable experiences for all you music lovers out there. They also help generate funding for a lot of social causes and make sure that musicians have a good time through the process. Do check them out on www.perpetualbuzz.com. We have yet another podcast partner, which is Wire Up Music Store, which is one of the finest music retail stores in Bangalore, with state-of-art equipment, your one-stop solution for musical gear ranging from guitars to ukulele and percussive instruments, and they also have a wide range of classical instruments. Do check out their Instagram page, which goes by the handle @wireup.india. Speaking a little about my lovely guest for today, Mr. Marco Minnemann, who's an extremely reputed drummer, and he's defined his musical career over the past decade. He's been playing drums since the age of 11. He's had a very prolific musical journey. Started out in the 90s with a crossover band, which has got a very, very funky name called Freakin' in Weirdos. And he's played with stalwarts like Paul Gilbert, Eddie Johnson, Stephen Wilson, Guthrie Govind, Mohini De from India, and many more. He's primarily recognized as a drummer for the supergroup, the Aristocrats. But this gentleman has done some remarkable work producing 14 solo albums. He's worked with Jordan Rudess of Dream Theater and Tony Levin. So they worked on this collective project as a trio together, wherein he showcased all of his work as a writer and a vocalist also. He's also part of this award-winning book, which is called Extreme Independence. Do check it out. A lot of you musical geeks out there, you'd love to have a read. Interestingly, he's also featured with Namada Swandam Taikudam Bridge on the album Nama. Without any further ado, I'm delighted to welcome my guest for the night, Marco Minnemann.
Hello.
Hi, Marco. How are you?
Here we go. Can you see me?
I cannot see you yet.
You can't see me. Okay. That will change drastically. There
yes,
we go.
Very much, very much. Much better now.
Perfect. How are you?
How are you? How are you doing? Which part of the world are you in right now?
Lake Elsinore in California.
Oh, wonderful. So what are you doing? Are you part of a tour? What's happening there?
Well, I live here, and so that's my house where I'm at.
Oh,
and
lovely.
So,
such a lovely place you've got.
Nice. Could be worse, yeah. But yeah, our tour starts indeed soon as well. So there you go.
Nice. Oh, lovely.
Yeah. You are where?
I am in India. I'm in Bangalore right now.
Oh, in Bangalore, of course. Yeah, I played there many times. Oh yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Did you have a great experience playing to the people of Bangalore?
Bangalore is actually one of my favorite places in India to play. It's like always like some of the best crowd, some of the best people to play for. I think, Well, I mean, there's everywhere good people as well, but Bangalore, we always had a great experience, I have to say.
I'm so glad that you enjoyed the crowd out here. Great. So let's get started with our agenda for today. So I have a couple of interesting questions coming your way.
Good.
Great. So Marco, I would describe you as someone who is very unostentatious and serene in your musical style. And yet in many ways, there's a lot of inner impulse that we see, which reflects in your personality, just like how I feel right now talking to you. But don't you think in some ways it's a little antithetical to the whole notion of performance, because you're a monster when you perform?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, for your kind words. But the thing is, I think there's nothing worse, in my opinion, than musicians who take themselves way too serious. and that's kind of the thing, what we have with the Aristocrats also, as well. When we go on stage or something, there's always like the bond between the audience and us, that makes us, I guess, who we are as well. People are not scared to kind of watch us play. They kind of feel embodied into the show, kind of as being part of it. It's like it's horrible if I guess if you play an instrument and you frighten people with it purposely or something like that, and I think it's a good feeling to make beautiful music, hopefully, and and if you have facility on and off to let that shine as well. And yeah, it's great to get nice comments, and then, but it always feels great when people just love the music and are less afraid of going like, oh my God, I now want to sell my drum kit, or now I want to sell my guitar or stuff like that. That's not the purpose of music. So yes, but on and off, we do have facility like this, or when I write as well, but for the greater good is the love for music and the bond between the people and the music. Well, I guess, that sounded about right.
Fair enough. Since we're on the topic of being Marco, your artistry, your persona, I see that you get lumped with many musicians throughout, like in your musical pursuit over the past couple of decades. But you seem to transcend a little beyond what is required, as a musician. And you have a very unique thing that sort of defines your identity, right? In terms of your playing style and all of that. I can tell the lineage of some of the beats that you play that I can hear from the music that you put out. And I can also hear the rhythm side of things, even though you're playing a style which is very technical to a lot of people, right? There's so much more to that, right? So how would you describe your playing style when someone says, give the Marco Minnemann touch to the music? How would you describe that?
It's difficult to describe it because I just do really what I feel, and what my heart tells me to do. And yeah, first of all, I do like to have the alphabet and the facility to kind of, to play anything I want to play at any time if needed. So I describe it usually always like if you have like a powerful car with a lot of horsepower, but you don't have to use it all the time. You don't have to drive fast all the time or kind of race. But you can feel that there is the horsepower there. And whenever you can shine something through or can do it, you kind of give a little hint, and I do like surprises, I guess, for example, well, let's do the opposite attracts kind of thing. So for example, with the Aristocrats or with my solo music, there are certain songs that have a lot of facility and some songs have also a lot of space, but people kind of expect that from me a little bit, so when I did recently an EP with Kendall Yates, singer and songwriter, and Alex Lifeson's a part of it too, it went straight into a completely different direction, which is complete desert vibe, like, white, tones and a lot of space, and just like the beauty of kind of painting a picture basically was really the goal, and catching the vibe of it and projecting that. And that to me is another side that not many people really witness, to just come to my site to check out maybe the latest quintuplet overlap with septuplets and stuff like that. And so I was kind of at first a little scared that when I would post this, that people would kind of go like, well, what is this? What are they doing here right now? But, and this is actually really, there's hope for humankind. Literally 99.9% of the comments were all wonderful and positive, and people were really going like, whoa, this is a beautiful piece of music, beautiful song. And so I think the world is ready, or is not sometimes as oblivious as we think. You know what I mean? Where people think like, oh, everything is only good if it's really technical or something. So our followers, and especially in the prog world or jazz world, are actually really open-minded if you deliver something beautiful. And yeah, on one of the songs, I did a little bit of fireworks. The song is called Malibu, and that was the thing where actually Kendall loved what I did. I was just kind of warming up and said like, hey, why don't we do a jazz approach to that? And that kind of, combined those two things and married them. And I guess, people really loved it. But the other two songs are straight focused just only on creating the vibe. And I'm more focused on the guitar tones there, that I use, and my bass and guitar playing and everything. And the drums really just have to be delicate, like sometimes with brushes or rods or like, swish cymbals. And I love that. And I play that side actually more often than some people probably would think, So, but I guess, that describes maybe my style, that I do have an agenda in music, and I do have a purpose of kind of, playing what I kind of choose to play, so it's like, I definitely, if it's simple or if it's complex, the one thing I do like, it's like, I want to kind of, play my rhythmic feel to it. I cannot stand if it's too sloppy, for example. So yeah, I do have like, that quality control thing inside of my head always. It's kind of strange because when I play guitar, for example, I love sometimes leaving dirt on the tracks because that's what guitar is for. It's like, guitar is a very emotional instrument. So are drums. But the drum set is basically the pizza dough, isn't it? And you put toppings on top of it. So the pizza dough has to be solid. If the drummer sucks in the band, the whole band sounds like shit. So, you know what I mean? So I really kind of pay a lot of attention to that. The drum track is beautiful. It doesn't have to be super tight, but it has to have a healthy pulse. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sorry for the detours here.
In our conversation, you did mention a little bit about prog music, right? Progressive rock music, or the stuff that you're involved in. So what are some of the inhibitors or factors that are resisting the growth and the evolution of genres like, say, neo-progressive rock in a commercial music space?
Yeah. So basically what really prog music is, and the diversions of it, honestly, I never really took that too serious because sometimes it's words that are made up, isn't it? Prog rock, everything. How do you define really a prog rock band, for to begin with? So what is a typical prog rock band would be Yes in the 70s, like with the fantasy covers of Roger Dean, and then like, lengthy songs with a lot of detours, and singing about wizards in the forest. but stuff like that. Not always, but there are bands like, for example, Jethro Tull, who completely count actually as a prog rock band in a way, but in my opinion, they are like more like a folk rock experience, like especially in the 70s, what they did. And so, but yeah, they get thrown into the whole same bin, and so do we with McStine and Minnemann, what we do, or what I sometimes do with my solo albums. But I never really kind of think about it. And all the musicians, who I talk about, like the last thing they kind of do is like going like, we're gonna make a prog album now. That's not what it's all what that was all about. But so I can't even answer you to the question what neo prog versus regular prog is. I see where this could go. Probably like, prog bands are Yes, and then neo prog would be like Haken or something like that. You know what I mean? I guess, to answer the question, but I doubt that the people really think about it. I guess everybody just writes for, if it's a good song, and it's a difficult thing to answer. I guess, with the Aristocrats, we don't really count as prog since we're an instrumental trio, and it would be probably more jazz rock, so I don't know, you tell me. It's like one of those things, because I write the songs for the band as well. We all write songs and deliver those songs, but the last thing I sit there is like going like, okay, let's please our genre. I just sit there and go like, okay, what would Guthrie and Brian like? And then I play it, and then I go like, no, that's a good song, let's present it.
Right. But don't you think there are a few factors or a few inhibitions that sort of has, like, it's niche centric music at the end of the day, right? And to sort of diversify in terms of a bigger audience or a larger audience to listen to something like this, what could be done better in terms of that, in terms of the listener base or the audiophiles who sort of cater to a musical.
Oh, you mean like to define a style, to kind of point people in the right direction?
Right.
Well, that's the thing, and you have to. That's the thing I was about to add. You have to kind of define yourself with something. So the problem is really when you kind of sign your album up for CD Baby or for Bandcamp or something, and then they're looking for you to define your style, and that's always when you sit there and go like, what is it? Is this actually really prog rock, prog metal? Is it indie? Is it that's kind of a thing. And it's good when they have three genres, because I always would define myself as indie, alternative, jazz, prog, rock, and electronica as well. And
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of stuff, that I'm kind of working in, but I guess boats like Cruise to the Edge, which I kind of meanwhile did for the second time, define sort of, that prog is alive, and that prog is also a valid form of genre that kind of inhibits or kind of, embraces all of these genres that we just talked about. Because when you kind of see like the recent prog rock experiences or festivals, there are a lot of jazz and rock and metal bands in there.
Sure.
So be it. So it used to be like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, prog was almost like a word that you didn't want to be affiliated with. It was like, this kind of thing where it's like, oh, it's one of those pompous prog rock bands, like a lot of strange keyboard sounds and a lot of kind of, notes as fast as possible, and a lot of odd meters here and there, mainly in 7. And and so, but that kind of completely diverted. Meanwhile, prog is it stands for what is actually the meaning of it: progressive, like not kind of, living in one genre, but kind of pushing boundaries or being experimental with music. So actually, that's kind of a beautiful thing. Therefore, Nine Inch Nails will count as prog as well, Yeah.
You've in your career spanning so many decades, you've worked with quite a diverse bunch of artists. If you were to look at it, you worked with everyone from Mohini Dey to John Frusciante to Mike Stern to Jordan Rudess and the Aristocrats, of course. So in what ways do you think these set of artists have set cross-cultural influences which have influenced your personal work?
Oh yeah, everything about it. Like especially what you just mentioned, the album with Deva Bujana and Jordan Rudess is on it, John Frusciante, then Mohini Dey, and yes, Mike Stern plays something as well.
Yeah.
And that is kind of the perfect example, especially of Mohini and myself. And Mohini and I, we go way back. We played already many, many years and know each other for a long time. And she's in my other band now as well, with Randy McStine together, what I have. And so the beauty of it is, to me, especially the conical playing and the tradition, the beautiful music tradition that you guys in India have, felt always very natural to me. It was like I embraced it immediately because I have the same way of thinking, but a different way of counting it. But the goal is exactly the same. And so when Mohini and I started playing these kind of things and started developing pieces of it, it felt absolutely natural to me. But I do think, for example, little accents that are kind of different that I really embrace, when I came to India. First, when I played with a guy called Karuna Murthy, and he's a tabla player, and he's great. And so because I played my stuff with 5s and 9s, and I was like, okay, 1 2 3 4, down 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 2 3 4. And he would go like, yeah, that's actually very cool. In India, we do like this one accent in a certain region. The 5s, we add like another 16th note or on the 7s or the 9s. So if I would play 1 2 1 2 1 2, we would do bam to dum bam to dum bam ba bam bam ba bam. It's like, this is cool. Let's combine this, And so these are things that you just learn by traveling and by working with musicians, because as you know, especially in India, but also in Latin America, certain people literally kind of know certain phrases from a region that are used to play the clave in a certain way, or and that's the same, with the Indian conical, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I always experience, and I love it. I have the deep appreciation for that, because it really combines, cultures and the different way of seeing things, but then also combining them with different instruments and creating beautiful results with it, and when Mohini and I are doing these conical pieces live, people are always dumbstruck, and I love that in the best possible way. The best example was, we just recently played an open air festival here in Southern California, in a small city close to Palm Springs, literally where just like, where mostly people came who had no idea for that. A lot of people were there for Pat Travers, who played there as well. It's great. So like just a rock, not just a rock band, And we were there with McStine and Minnemann, and there was like, also like some Van Halen cover bands and all kinds of stuff. So there was like literally a fair amount of like drinking biker, leather wearing, bikers, who wanted to have fun and drink. But even all those people, as soon as we started with the conical thing, some people who were our fans, they knew what they expected. They were like, oh, cool, here it comes. This is awesome. But some people who had no idea about this and were just concentrating on the beer at first, they all went to the stage and were like, whoa, what the hell is that? This is cool, So there is definitely the mission accomplished, So there's, I think it goes into the territory of your voice wants to be heard, and it's also a part of excellence, to play something like this and to learn these kind of things, and it's a dedication. Yeah, maybe that's a better word for it, to then kind of make it as good as possible. And you must be really ignorant and dumb to not understand that. Everyone who has like a brain inside of their head and a little bit of cultural, will, to learn, is probably kind of going like, whoa, what is this? And that's cool.
You did mention that you enjoyed your musical experience in our lovely country. What did you like? What were some of the highlights or some anecdotes from your experience in India? Were you drawn towards a certain musical form? Did you like a certain culture that sort of drew you to understand and learn more about Indian music? Could you throw some light on that?
Yeah, well, it was really kind of the personal experiences, So, for example, being able to or being invited to like wonderful people's houses and playing with them, that is where you learn the most and where you kind of communicate the most, and it's a give and take. I remember, like, which is such a beautiful thing, Gino Banks, the drummer from India, you know him, and his father. Yes, exactly.
Louis Banks.
So, yes, Louis, exactly. And so they invited me to their house to play all together. And they were asking me some questions, how I do these kind of things. And I was asking them some questions, what they do. And then we collaborated on stuff. And that is just so beautiful. These are some of the highlights, and also I have to really say it's mostly when you kind of go into depth on like smaller cities where you can concentrate, on the people a little better. Like obviously when you're in Kolkata, it's fantastic, I love it. But we play like those are big events. There's a lot of people coming, and you put on a show, and then in the same in Mumbai, or Bombay or whatever, like the old and new part, or New Delhi, those are actually places where you mainly play your show, and then you go back to your hotel and are kind of sheltered away a little bit sometimes, and that's it's fun and people appreciate it and it's great, But I really liked, when I was invited, to Gino's and Louis' place, but that was in Kolkata, and also like places where people don't go that often, like Bangalore, for example. Bangalore is like you always feel that people are just coming to enjoy themselves and have a great time all together, and it was some of the best audiences ever. I remember like they're so boisterous and so appreciative. And appreciating, and the other place which I really remember, which was a little bit an odd one out, was Guwahati.
Guwahati, yeah, they have a stronghold when it comes to some great music.
Yeah, absolutely. So so these are experiences, and different experiences from that. But yeah, to revert back to the original question, was like really playing just one-on-one, with people, and that there's like willingness to do so, and that there's like everybody's so curious about music. It is like a celebration, and those are the highlights. It doesn't work in many countries that way. You play and then you go out and drink. In India you play and then you go out and drink and play some more with the drinks. There's
the community.
There's music in the air, and I like that.
Wonderful. I'm so glad you had a great time in India, and we're really looking forward to see you in a lot of other parts of India and a couple of more occasions.
That I'm surprisingly soon, possibly in 2023, with our new Aristocrats album. We're probably gonna come out again.
Yeah, that's gonna be massive. So are you coming with the orchestra? Is this going to be? I'd love that.
That would be if we would kind of all go broke and spend like the money on flights and hotels. Yeah, that would be a little extravagant, but what would
That's
be possible?
A dream, right?
Yeah, that is like something. I mean, we could do this maybe directly in Poland, where the orchestra is from. We can do like maybe an installed week of shows, or like bigger cities like London, Los Angeles, Tokyo, or in India, certain places where you have local orchestras. Who can have the sheet music,
of course,
ahead of time, learn, and then you play together. That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. So percussion has been such an integral part of your life, something that has been carried forward from your previous life, maybe. So can you try?
Maybe.
Can you try and describe what happens to you when you're actually playing the instrument, and what does it gift you?
Well, it's for me really kind of a state of zen, that I would describe it. When I play, nothing around matters. You're in that zone. It's like, it doesn't. It's hard to describe. It's like I sometimes remember dream sequences, literally, like that I had like a while back that I wouldn't remember if I just talk to you right now or walk around. It's like you open a door to subconsciousness that kind of plays a role. And you create, you see it. I almost see it visually when I play. I kind of hear the music. I can see pictures or images. That's what really happens. So it's never a job. It's always fun and bliss in a way. So that to me is really playing. There's no greater feeling really than that. It's bigger than money. Money can't buy that. What you have, Sure. I always say that. I said this many times, but and I say this at clinics sometimes. When if somebody would go like, hey, look, I have like a $2.5 million Rolls Royce I just bought, and I would go like, well, but can you play 7 against 9 against 5? No, you can't. Well, that's okay. Then you can take your Rolls Royce and take off again. It's like you can't buy that. There's like certain things you cannot buy. Talent, that is, for example, or creativity. Right. And to me, that is what you're gonna be remembered for in the future. Because you don't take your Rolls Royce with you, or your Tesla, or your house, or anything. You leave something in the universe behind that is much greater, So and that's what I'm thinking. Obviously, I like to have I live on the lake. That's nice, yes, and it helps me writing good music. Yeah, I like that too. But it's not my first goal. My first goal is always to play the best I can. So and that's what's happening. So when I sit behind the drum set, it doesn't matter if I'm playing here on the lake or if I'm playing somewhere in a small club, actually in South Dakota, where next to the cows. It doesn't matter, It's like the performance is always the most
focus.
Important. Yeah, absolutely. The love confession.
You did mention of a little bit about the whole spiritual aspect of the Zen, right? So people have looked at the relationship between music and divinity, and music is essentially a route to something like divinity. So have you felt this relationship? Are you a spiritual person? If yes, what are some of the spiritual techniques that you personally embody?
Yeah, it's very interesting because I'm actually not really a spiritual person. I never grew up that way. But I did develop the love, for music and art and creativity, and also, between humans. But I was never really raised in any sort of religious environment, like no church or other, religions I would kind of stray to or kind of, look into. Maybe I should, I'm interested in it, but I don't really. Yeah, that's a short answer. I don't really practice these kind of things. I just believe, like, if you in energy exchange, if you give energy, good energy to the people, they will bring you this back. And if you, I guess, succeed with what you're doing, and that is a successful interchange or exchange, then that's a reason to continue that way. And why right now I'm not looking for anything else. To be very honest, I'm happy and content in my life, and that's really, I don't know, so no, I don't really kind of sit there and do like 1 hour of humming or something like that.
I'm also keen in getting to know, you've definitely achieved technical excellence to surrendering to the bubble of sound and encase yourself in it, right? and you've been working with some of the finest musicians from across the world. What remains for you now?
Well, I tell you what remains. It's the beauty of kind of, creating further and further and further. There's always, that feeling when you write a song and it gives you maybe goosebumps, or it makes you feel you want to kind of share it with the world. And that's the thing. It's not like who I play with, is like almost always what I play, and there's always development. And if it's not technical, then it's in sound, or in diversity, or becoming rich. It's like the more experience you have, the more you can kind of look back and ease and breathe and go like, well, because when you've done already so many things, you don't have to prove anything anymore. You can just enjoy creating music.
Yep.
And that to me is like most important. So I'm not really looking for anything, or kind of going or to go into a certain direction. What I'm very proud of is actually to kind of always find new things to kind of go to. For example, I'm not keen on necessarily revisiting things, and kind of going back and playing with artists that have been already around for 50 years. Nothing wrong with that, of course, and I happily do that. But what I'm really proud of is like finding new talents, like for example, Kendall, like what I did with her, and seeing her getting embraced into all the world that I already worked in. And that is amazing, to give the gift that you received in life further on, to kind of, pass it on. I think it's our duty as musicians and artists to do so, and be happy to kind of pass on, torches or the talent, or kind of, because your joy multiplies by doing so. Seeing like someone who is still, who is kind of about to get successful and has talent, discovering this talent and working with the person, making this person really happy, the joy multiplies. And that to me is like, more important, than kind of revisiting certain stuff and doing like some tours, which is a compromise sometimes, with certain artists you don't even like, you know what I mean? Because that is something, that I think is not being truthful. On the other hand, hey, not everybody is kind of, blessed to kind of writing their own music, and making money of it. So yeah, if somebody kind of takes like a big pop gig or something and needs the money, there is nothing wrong with it. I don't want to say it. And maybe people like it for the fashion or for the style. But my agenda is a little bit different. So that's what we're talking about here right now. So again, I don't want to judge people about it, but that's my personal opinion.
So if I may know, what is more important for you? Is it the journey, or is it the destination?
Oh yeah, the journey. Absolutely. Clear as daylight. Because the destination, I don't want to define a destination. See, here's the thing, is like with music or any art form, I'm almost scared to deliver the perfect work. You know what I mean? When I revisit, for example, albums, there's mostly something I find where I go like, on that song, we could have done this maybe a little better. Or, it's not that I'm embarrassed of the albums or something, not at all. There are like some great pieces, I think, on it, and then we keep continuing making music. But describing certain things as perfect, or if then if you make the perfect statement that you think like, yep, that's it, well, right now, where should I go from there? Then I would be scared of that, because then I'm scared of not experimenting anymore or not going anymore. If you kind of make a statement that makes you so proud, or you get the confirmation of it maybe as well, that makes you stop music, I don't like the idea. I like little imperfections. So that gives you kind of, that grants you to always kind of, develop and go into different areas. And I think if you do something that is close to perfect, which what we did with the last album that I did with Randy McStine together, McStine Minnemann 2, I think is a really good album. And we were both very pleased with it, and hated to say it almost, because usually, it's weird to say that, but we were like, hey, actually, this came out exactly as we envisioned, if not even better. But the beauty of it then is like to go into a different direction and try to kind of play with different elements. So yeah, perfect, in my opinion, doesn't really exist. And it shouldn't. Otherwise there would be no evolution. Yeah.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful take.
Thank you.
A lot of musicians that I've I've come across the recent, couple of years, uh, they have been able to blend two completely different musical forms and create something that becomes an all-new classic for people like me who listen to it. It has
Yeah.
normally stayed with novelty, and it's only very rarely, on a few occasions, people say that they've tried to create fusion music of two complete different musical styles, and that resulted in vitality for a while, and it's forgotten later. Right? What
Yeah.
is your take on a scenario like that?
You mean kind of being something creative, but it has like a limited time shelf, so to speak,
Yes,
life
yes,
shelf. You
yes.
so I think there will be always like a thing that can be revisited in the future. I think good music and whatever you created will not go away. Sometimes it will have a break, and then people will listen to it again.
Mhm.
The best example right now is, you remember the artist Kate Bush from England?
Yes.
She's a fantastic artist, like very talented and multi-instrumentalist, a great songwriter, lyricist,
Mhm.
producer. She even used to dance very well, and
Right.
then still maybe, I don't know, but just the writing of her is so strong. And I remember sometimes introducing people to their album, her album, The Dreaming, or Hounds of Love. And well, her big hit, which doesn't represent her repertoire, but is still a big hit, was Running Up That Hill, which was a huge hit in the 80s. So the album overall, Hounds of Love, is beautiful. And so I played it sometimes to people, and people always go like, "Oh, this is great. This is really good music." So so now this weird thing happened. I played the song to some people, and it was like, "Oh yeah, hey, that's pretty cool, blah blah blah." And then awesome. And then it kind of, yeah, so there it was. And maybe listen to it once or twice. So now, just literally a few months later, and I didn't predict that, but a TV show picked up that song and featured that song in their series or something like that of, broadcasts. And the song became once again everywhere a number one hit. Everybody in all over the world starts playing that song again. It's all over social media. And the people I played that song already a few months ago that listened maybe once or twice now can't stop listening to that song anymore because it is everywhere and they love it. It's like, oh my God. And they kind of chat about it and talk about it. And I guess, that is pretty much, what happens because, Kate Bush is by all means not a commercial writer with some of her style she does. But, and I guess, yeah, it's a little bit like Sleeping Beauty, that kind of the fairy tale, you're on and off, you wake up because what you leave behind in the universe will get revisited. And it's the same with great bands like Queen, and also like you guys have obviously fantastic releases or Shankar or something like that, this kind of stuff will always be revisited. It will sometimes to give it a rest, but then another generation, their father will show them the album or some university and we're like, here it is again. So I wouldn't be afraid of something that is being overlooked or something, Yeah, you can't always succeed with things, or kind of have it being always there in the universe. But I think, good stuff will get revisited and will leave the mark in the universe. Gotta have a little bit of talent, obviously, of social media as well, and posting on and off things. And it's like, yeah, that plays a role these days, doesn't it? People have such a
Totally.
short attention span, this is something I'm more afraid of. It's like not, getting overlooked with art because it will find its way. But what I'm kind of worrying about is that certain generations are running the risk of literally dumbing down of art and music because posts are getting shorter and shorter. TikTok has like 5 seconds or something clips or something like this.
Ridiculous.
If you have a beautiful piece of music like Wish You Were Here from Pink Floyd or Shine on Your Crazy Diamond, which is like 12 minutes long, the intro already takes 3 minutes and 50 seconds or something, you know what I mean? You can't do this on TikTok. So meanwhile, people get encouraged to do the maximum output within 5 to 10 seconds to kind of post it. And then what? It's like, that's not writing a beautiful song, that's just creating a thing to be, to kind of get attention. And
Correct.
And And I see more and more, bands when they come into a studio who are not capable to play a single take anymore. Because they're so used to looking at the screen and copy and paste things and kind of cut and bits and pieces. And I think it should go really back. And this is what I like about the vinyl revival, stuff like that people meanwhile have to take the time again to go like, yeah, actually vinyl is cool. We put it on the turntable, we have a glass of wine with it or something, and we celebrate the listening experience. And that brings kind of, I guess, people back to music, not only vinyl, but also playing clubs and the club scenes that they are active or something that encourages new bands to learn how to play again. But there is the risk factor to releasing dumbness sometimes, to dumb down things, to not go about quality, but like really the quantity and like quick clips. And sometimes, I kind of, yeah, I almost feel like that certain quality is going away. What you just said, like certain things that Mahavishnu Orchestra did, or Frank Zappa, or those bands, or also Queen, creating such a beautiful piece like Bohemian Rhapsody or something like that. There's love of art in there. And I salute bands, who strive for that still in these days. So, yeah.
Lovely. So we did speak about musical forms, and I'm very interested to know your take towards musical forms which are appropriate to particular feelings that someone wants to communicate and express. Can you throw some light on that when it comes to your personal experience in terms of making music? How does it work for you?
Hang on. Can you redefine the question? You mean musical forms, how people react to it, or what it should project to the people?
No, in terms of your personal feelings that you would like to communicate and express through a particular song. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, do you what is your take on that when it's being projected to people?
I think it's a very important emotional outlet, and it very much is a valid point. So, and most of my music, especially when it's lyrically based, is absolutely aimed at that. Like all of my albums lyrically deal with true emotional content. Which would always make it therapeutic, because you let these things out in music. It's like, music is literally a form of dealing with yourself and expressing feelings. You can have it literally all of a sudden in front of you, almost like in a physical or like audio wave form, because it touches you. And when you kind of write like a nice harmonic shifts to it and create something like a beautiful arrangement, it comes alive. It's not in your head anymore, out there. And so, and it will communicate with the people, and some people can identify themselves with that and be touched. So that is actually important to me. It's actually very important to me. So it's a very, very good question, because it's, if you don't, a friend of mine, Francis Dunnery, once said this kind of thing, which was very cool. He goes like, if you don't have a story, you don't have anything. So that's really your agenda in music. And even with the Aristocrats, as an instrumental trio, we do have a mission. Like, certain, by the song titles, we already have a story in mind, what we kind of, tell the audience, or how the song came about. But it projects like a certain vibe. There's never anything done just by sheer technical joy, or just to kind of go like, well, here it is, there's a composition. There's always like, something behind it. Either way, it sounds like, twangy and funny, or it sounds like, provoking, like, which one of the songs I did on the first album, which kind of messes around with blues stuff. Stuff like this, or we do like purposely, I did once like a dance song for the Aristocrats, Dance of the Aristocrats, and kind of, just doing that. But things like that, they have a mission, and you can tell a story about it and why you did it, and you start laughing while you write sometimes these songs, and or being emotional when I write, songs for the last album that I did with Randy McStine together. There was like a lot of emotional content, but I think it was very beautiful, but it was verbally communicated. So yeah, long story short, I absolutely think it's very important to have a story behind it and let your thoughts out of your head. If it's about yourself, or if it's about the environment, or anything, but if you have something to say musically or lyrically or both, then that is kind of pretty much the winning ticket, I suppose. Yeah.
On that note, I'd also like to talk a little bit about your new album with the Primus Chamber Orchestra.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and what was the entire experience like? I'm sure it's been spanning several months to sort of put this entire project out. So could you tell us a little bit, like a brief about the experience working with them, and how did the entire thought come about?
It was a pandemic experience, to make it really short, because I mean, not really actually, but it kind of it came to life through the pandemic, I have to say, probably very likely actually, because when we stopped touring, that was basically when the world sort of stood still for 2 years, and which, strangely enough, I mean, it's obviously a bad thing, that happened, but strangely enough, and I know a lot of my musician friends enjoyed being at home, as horrible as it was, but a lot of people were like, no touring right now, just like, having like a little bit of time and then kind of, creating something here, maybe getting different ideas. Without the pandemic, I wouldn't have probably formed the band together with Randy McStine, and we did these 2 fantastic albums. Without the pandemic, the thing with the orchestra probably wouldn't have happened. And the thing how it came about was really that the Primus Orchestra did one song, and by themselves, they just did a cover version of Culture Clash and of them. And I think our band manager, Riccardo Capelli, I think he was the one spotting it. He saw that somewhere online and sent it over to us. Goes like, "Hey guys, check this out." And sometimes you get like cover versions, and you think like, sometimes you go like, "Oh, okay, that's nice, cool," and sometimes and you move on and stuff like that. You go like, "Oh, thank you," blah blah blah. That one was different. That was like complete orchestra arranged and very different take of somebody not just, I want to say, because I respect a lot when people cover our songs, but there was something that we were able to communicate with, So all of a sudden, we heard this arrangement and thought like, wait a minute, this is really cool. So we thanked them, and the main guy, Wojtek, he's like the arranger and conductor. He's a huge fan. He was like willing to do another song or something, because we kind of put it out there. It's like, hey, shall we do maybe 1 or 2 other songs? Do it like an EP, like one of each of the band members, one of each of their songs with an orchestra. And it came together so nicely, and also like not in the average way where you think like, okay, here's the song, and then we just kind of throw the orchestra on top. No, it was like really composed with the orchestra, and the arrangements were being made and redone, and that was beautiful. And so when we saw like those 3 pieces coming together nicely, then we thought, okay, hey, why don't we do an entire album? And that was basically the how it happened. And we did have time on our hands, right? Because we were not touring, so it became like a labor of love, during the dark days of the pandemic, which then after all, we're not that dark anymore, because you kind of you create you create beauty out of darkness, right? That's kind of one of those things. You can do that, so whatever happens, you can turn it into something beautiful, I think. And that was how that happened. And here's the album, and we're on tour.
In fact, I had one of the best birthday surprises when your management made me listen to the album before it's released. They gave me like a private exclusive stream to the album, and I was just I had one of my best birthdays listening to your album. It was such a privilege to have
thank you.
Listened to this entire massive project. It was incredible.
Yeah. That's something, huh? That is definitely something where you're like, whoa. And it came together very nicely. It came together very good, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
a lot of fans out here want to know a little bit about the artwork and your mascot. So how did that entire idea pop out?
Well, I guess, I'm partially to blame for that, and also Guthrie, because we were in during one of our tours when we kind of came to Turkey, that was actually really funny, because they took us like to those bazaars in town and kind of showed us around. Right. And they said like, hey, do you guys want to take a present with you, like some souvenir, like a nice teacup or something like this. But But then we thought like, hey, that would be very nice, but you can't really travel with a teacup. It would break in the luggage or something like that, right? But I saw like those rubber chickens hanging there. And I said for fun, I said like, I want one of those chickens. And we bring it on stage tonight. And he was, you want the chicken? And I was like, yeah. And then the other two guys, Guthrie and Brian, went like, yeah, let's get 3 of them. And then we kind of use them on stage just for fun. And so we kept running around through Turkey with chickens. It's a paradox, isn't it? So, and then, we kind of, started making noises, and people were kind of looking always where these noises come from. And we had a ball because we put them in plastic bags and be like on a tram, riding actually and kind of making those noises, and people didn't know where it came from, stuff like that. So we loved it. And then we brought it on stage and people started going nuts, and we incorporated them in the songs just for our own entertainment. And then at an Italian rest stop, one of those auto grills you have there, Guthrie saw a pig. So now the pig joined in.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden we were kind of, it became our thing. It became a trademark in a way. Yeah. And so it was only right to then do the album art with a classical.
That's a total classic. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is like there's like this old the EMI dog emblem with the dog looking that way into that gramophone.
Gramophone. Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of really thought like, oh, wait a minute. We have like other animals there. We could just do that, And I think that's actually very funny. Yeah. So, and that's how it came about. So I guess it shows our regular, aristocratic humor, in the production. After all, as serious actually this album is, it's actually really a serious album. There's like hardly, that's like a proper classical project.
Yeah, everything's on point, from marketing to the mascot to the music. Yeah.
That went pretty
well. It spans the whole among a lot of lovely fans from different parts of the world.
Yeah, glad to hear that.
Quite awestruck to listen to this entire record. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy it.
Yeah. Talking about Cosmos in the future and the sort of expansive, eternal growing future, coming down to your use of skills as a percussionist or a composer, how do you project this in your compositions and reach out into the future? Can you give us an example?
You mean the growing cosmos of music, or in general the growing cosmos
of music?
Of music. I was like, yeah, I know what you mean. It would be cool because it goes hand in hand, isn't it? Without the universe, there would be no pocket universe, or there would be no thing what we do. Yeah. Well, we definitely have things on our agenda, and there is a future for that. So we already plan ahead. So I have a new solo album coming out, which I won't probably release until 2023 as well, but I have enough songs ready, and they're almost all done. That's the thing I always do, This is the thing, when I write music, I kind of put them into different directions. You see me sitting here writing music, and then some of the stuff is good for the Aristocrats, some of the stuff is good for what I do with Randy, and some of the stuff I release on my own. This is how that really works. So the future clearly now is concentrating on the Aristocrats tour, and so that will be a global tour, and then writing already new material for our next studio album, which I'm almost finished with. I'm on the last song for that. That. And then what else is going on? A lot of studio productions always. That's kind of a thing I love to do. And I get like booked a lot for studio projects, and I love doing that because it keeps me entertained, and it keeps me also, discovering new talents and just like, connecting with great people. And so I have always in my house, my drum set is always mic'd up, and my guitars and bass here too and stuff. So I can always deliver something on the spot, which I think is very cool that you can do that these days. And like 25 years ago, that wouldn't have been possible. You had to go in the studio, Meanwhile, you can do this like, with the computer technology, and your audio interfaces brilliantly. You have everything set up, and with fast internet these days, you can literally kind of do a production within 2 hours. Somebody sends you in that hour a song, and you send it back actually the next hour, if it's a quick or readable song. So these are things I'm doing a lot, and I'm enjoying them. And I know the sounds I'm getting here. People like what I do, and people book me. That's the important thing. People book me for what, but also for what I do.
Yeah.
You know what? That was like a thing that when you start playing music, you get a lot of times, like, people who just want to book you because they hear you can do this and you can do that. And then they kind of want you to play what they hear inside of their heads. And that all of a sudden turned around at some point. At some point, they were like, we want his style on our record. Do whatever you want. We appreciate it. That was, to me, the most satisfying moment. I mean, it gradually happened when people were inviting you for who you are and what you bring to the music.
Sure.
That was the absolute turning point where I thought, like, oh, this is cool. So now I am sort of respected in the music world. And so, yeah, these things I do definitely. So when people hire me for stuff, and I love playing that, so yeah, but the future, like for my own creative output, new McStine Minnemann album that's coming out end of this year, next Aristocrats studio album in 2023, and also likely one of my new solo albums. And whatever happens, if there's like some beautiful collaboration happening with someone, like the Deva Bujana thing, which completely came out of nowhere, and there it was, and it was a great album. And we recorded that album literally in half a day, which was like, we still don't know how we did it, but it was just ridiculous. It was set up, sound check, and then playing the songs by reading them and developing that conical piece I did with Mohini. That was like developed during lunch.
Wow.
And when you listen back to that, you go like, and we all kind of, I know Jordan, Mohini and I, we sometimes kind of go like, how did we do that? Because it's like, I shudder to think, usually what I like with albums like these is like, be at home and do maybe one song a day, revisit it a little bit and then work on it. But yes, sometimes these things happen and the magic is there and on the spot and you create.
You make it sound very simple.
I can't do anything else, isn't it? So I have to be good at something. No, I don't know, but it's you have to. It's sometimes not simple at all, obviously, but I think you have to be confident, with what you do.
Sure.
And I know, like, sometimes there's like a lot of notes and a lot of kind of charts, and if you kind of go in with the expectation, it's like, oh my God, this is really hard. I need to concentrate. Then that's not for you. You need to kind of face it. You need to go, yeah, I'm doing it. Here we are. And then it becomes joyful and easy after all. Yeah.
What about the non-performing baton and life in general? We've definitely become a society that wants to keep holding on to youth, to duty, to what have you, right? So do you feel the process of ultimate disintegration, probably giving in, perhaps?
That's a difficult question. Can you repeat that? I need to wrap my head around this. So what do you mean by that?
So in terms of, I mean, of course, you're a great musician.
Yeah.
What is life beyond that? Like, what's your non-performing baton like, apart from the musical bit? Right? At least in terms of society, we have a lot of facades and this concept of duty, this concept of holding on to youth, and so there's this there's a little bit of fear, right, when it comes to disintegration sometimes. So maybe giving in at a certain point, right? So what is your take on something like that?
We live in interesting times, that's the thing. I had this discussion just yesterday night, actually, with my girlfriend driving back from a show where we were invited to with Nick Becks, my dear friend, and we were kind of hanging there, and then we talked exactly on the way of what is happening, first of all, in the world, like those new rules about like abortion here and in certain states and all kinds of things that are going on in the news.
Right.
And, but then also what I kind of lately really talk about and I'm concerned about, there is like this movie called Idiocracy. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't.
No? That movie was made in 2005. Okay. And it was dealing already by that time by internet and things like really kind of dumbing people sometimes down, and with the whole social media kind of thing, and people are not challenged anymore. Right. And kind of, make their things about like post more about like, oh, here's my new picture with Botox, rather than kind of, talking about, hey, I wrote a really cool piece in 1716, you know what I mean? and that is kind of a thing I really worry about it. But I still, I think there's hope for humanity overall, and I kind of still make my life beyond music. Also, I try to find people who have the same agenda and the same view of the world, and there are those people. There are colleges, there are music colleges, there are music lovers and artists, who take the time to paint, to create, to write, and these are people I like to meet and have fun with and kind of be creative with. I mean, there's nothing wrong, obviously, sometimes going out at a dive bar and get like drunk. I like that, or play or do something. But for the future, I don't know. It's always difficult to project the future or to predict, what is going on. But I see a ray of hope, and I have to. Otherwise, if you don't see that, then your life would become miserable. People would get depressed. But like I said earlier, and that reflects in music again, I see people revert into art again, buying vinyl, going out, and taking their time and leaving their cell phone maybe sometimes at home. That's the thing that bothers me about, the current state. It's like, when you go out to dinner with certain friends and half of the people sit on their goddamn phone the entire time and stare at it instead of kind of having a valid conversation. Yeah. How many people do you know who actually can speak in complete sentences and articulate themselves, writing wise as well, without writing an emoji or doing the right, grammar spelling or stuff like that? That's an art form in itself that kind of went away, and that's not being old-fashioned. That's being intellectual. And I think, I'm fighting for that side to go like, no, I kind of speak in complete sentences, and I don't write a smiley face. I kind of write that sentence out. Maybe I do sometimes, but that's the thing, that worries me about the ongoing generations, shit like this, But again, it will come back, Yeah. I don't know. I have not much else to say because politically or something like that, I'd rather stay out of politics, because I don't know where it's heading, But we had grim past 2 years, that's for sure.
Great. So let's come to an interesting segment as part of our agenda today. This is the rapid fire segment, and cool. You've got to be very spontaneous with your answers.
I try my best.
You can't think too much, and if you get them right, I'm going to send you these cute little cupcakes from a local bakehouse in Bangalore.
Oh, yeah. I would like to have them anyways, even if I don't get them right.
That's for sure. These are from Glenn's Bakehouse in Bangalore. They got like amazing pastry and confectionery. I love this place.
Oh my gosh, fantastic. Next time I go there and I have them. Yeah.
I will show you around. I'd be happy to show you around. Yeah.
Lovely.
So first question for you.
Yeah.
What is that one song that always makes you cry?
Oh, God. Hello, Earth by Kate Bush. It doesn't make me cry, really, but it's a beautiful song. Mm-hmm.
Okay. On the contrary, what is your favorite guilty pleasure song?
I Was Made for Loving You by Kiss.
Good one. Good choice. What is your favorite cuisine?
Sushi, Japanese. I should have said Indian. I know Indian too.
I was looking for that. But yeah, that's all right.
Because I have many sushi places here, So
okay, all right.
Specific.
If you could put together an all-star percussion group, who would be in it?
John Bonham, Buddy Rich, and Neil Peart.
Wow, that was spot on. Right on. You're getting this on the spot. Great. So in the interest of time, I have one last question for you. And this is a custom in most of my interviews. And I ask this to all of you stalwarts of music. Mm-hmm. Down in the distant horizon, what would you want to be remembered as?
I want to be remembered for someone who brings joy to the people with music and kind of hopefully gives them a better time on planet Earth or lets them develop their dreams with what they hear.
Wonderful. So before we conclude the session, this session is also going to be aired on Big FM Shillong and Aizawl, two incredible radio stations that cater to music. And you are also going to be part of my all-new audio podcast, which is going to be called Stalwarts of Music with Aditya Veera, which is all set for launch.
Good.
Yeah, so
amazing. Send me the link or something, and then I'll post.
I will for sure. So once I upload this, I'd be happy to share this with you. And cool. As we continue to celebrate a dozen marvelous musical pieces, the showmanship that you've displayed over the years in terms of your musical abilities, your songwriting.
Thank you.
It sort of displays a very rich and intense life that people all across the world sort of await. Thank you so much for making amazing music.
Thank you for having me on your show, and that is amazing. Thank you so much for the knowledgeable.
Yeah. I'd love to stay in touch with you. We could connect on social media, and I'd love to share some amazing Indian music also with you. Yeah.
Sounds good. Absolutely. Always open ears. Yeah.
Thank you once again, Marco, for giving all your valuable time into this lovely podcast. And stay safe and have a great day.
Yeah. You too. Thank you very much. All right. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.